Hello. Well, I'm glad to be here. I appreciate being invited by the Theosophical Society. I'm glad that you, wherever you are right now, are interested to listen and reflect and explore experience a little. And I'm happy to have the opportunity just to speak most essentially, really, about liberation, living freely. Or we could also call it living fully and dying freely. That vision of a life where we're actually able to meet the circumstances of life, the details and dramas of life, in a way that we don't need any more to create friction with the stuff of life. And it seems to me that that's at the heart of spiritual practice. That's the vision of all the people throughout history who've walked a similar path. Right? One that starts with that recognition or hope or intuition that it's like the way we know there must be a way to meet life more freely. And then we may be inspired by teachings and practices that others have followed, and by the sense we might get of that possibility. And it might be presented as realization or enlightenment or being one with the divine, or whatever the language the tradition is. And the way in which we're pointed to the fact that, I feel constrained, right? Constrained in a body, constrained by my mind and its habits and its patterns and its annoying noisiness. You know? And, I have a sense that it's possible to be freer around all of that. And wow, it is possible. That's what teachings and practices point to. And that's what our own experience can really bear out if we give it the chance. So that's what I want to talk about today. And I want to speak about it through a particular lens, a lens we could call embodied awakening, kind of a very visceral approach to exploring body and mind and world and the whole of the manifest universe, really. There's this beautiful saying by the Buddha where he says, the whole universe arises and passes right here in this body. And that really struck me when I first heard of it, in the way that it points to, stay here, stay interested. You can meet all of life right here. In fact, where else are you going to meet it? Where else are you going to find life? Over there? Right? No, there is no over there. Wherever you go, here you are. Right? And so even though we're constantly conceiving of some other moment, some other place, some other possibility, some other experience, there is no other moment. There is no other place. Everything you have ever lived, everything you will ever live, everything you could ever live, you live right here. And so all the thoughts and hopes and wishes and projections and fantasies and worries about then and there, right? Those things also happen right here. The whole universe arises and passes. Everything that's known or could ever be known right here in this body. And I can't think of a more compelling invitation to stay and to settle and to sense deeply into what is happening here. So that's what this talk or these reflections are about, really. The importance of staying and settling, the profound coming alive of experience in that staying and settling, and then also some of the how to stay and settle, given the sort of seemingly inherent restlessness that goes with being human, the seemingly incessant wish to get, do, become, go, have, and always in pursuit, like the proverbial carrot in front of the donkey. We're pursuing reality or pursuing enlightenment, and the more we pursue it, the more it somehow recedes. In the Buddhist tradition, like to talk about the path being endless, an infinite path. And at first that could sound a bit dispiriting, like, oh, you mean I'm going to be, doing this forever? But actually, it's when we think there's an end to the path that we try to get there. If we really say, hey, the path of exploring life is boundless, infinite, edgeless, then we realize, oh, that means there's no arrival. Right? There's no arrival. So that also means, there's no urgency to get somewhere. That means where I am is good enough. Where I am, how I am, the way things are right now is the open doorway. So that's our opportunity to explore the way things are right now, to enter into the way things are right now. So often meditation, and I imagine, if you're here watching this, it's because you have probably already, maybe this is some initial interest, but probably you already have some kind of your momentum of spiritual practices, some familiarity with meditation. Meditation is very often presented, understandably, but I think a little unhelpfully, as being very mental, as being something I'm doing with my mind. I'm training my mind. I'm working with my mind. I'm looking at my mind. I'm observing my mind. I'm witnessing my mind. And, those kinds of explanations might be helpful. But we can also, we're already, most of us, very busy with my mind. And you see for yourself, right? The extent to which your meditation practice may end up being one where you're sort of in a fight with your mind, in a fight to get rid of your thoughts, or maybe you've gone past that. That we often start that way, just wanting my mind to shut up, right? And then we realize, it doesn't really work. So it's like, okay, I just want to I want to kind of tame my mind or invite my mind to be quieter, right? Or let thoughts go by. And those kind of images, again, might be helpful, but look to your experience. What's your relationship like with your mind? When you sit in meditation, is it a process of actually settling into experience, actually resting into the natural space of consciousness in which mind is just doing its thing? Or is there some friction, some wrestling with the mind, some attempt to control the mind? So, if there is, I would suggest we start in a much more like kind of sensory way, physical way, by entering into experience in that way, right? First of all, don't worry about what your mind's doing. Let's see what your body's doing. And we might start there, like right now. So just as you're sitting or standing or walking, I don't know where you are as you're listening to this, watching this, but just recognize, first of all, that you're conscious, right? Here is your attention, this amazing capacity, like to hear and to see and to think, right? This sort of background to all our experience, so fundamentally so that we take it for granted. And yet when we stop and just recognize, wow, I'm awake, I'm aware, I can receive experience. I can not only see, but I can know that I'm seeing. I can not only hear, I can know the hearing. Amazing. So when I just come into this seeing, hearing, sensing, feeling, thinking organism with the intention to really relax, to settle. We all like the idea of relaxing, but we might find, most of us, we're not actually very good at relaxing. Our culture doesn't really train us at all well to relax. It trains us to, to do, get, have, become, pursue. Or we find ways to relax that basically involve going unconscious. How do you relax? Well, most people relax by having a few drinks, right? Nice, but it's a way of losing consciousness in a certain way. Or you relax in front of the TV, it's giving away your consciousness in that way. It's not that there's anything wrong with these things, but it's a way that we tend to associate relaxation with going unconscious. Right? Whereas meditation is actually about relaxing in such a way that we become more conscious. So let's just do that a little bit now before we go on. Right? Firstly, just feel the weight of your body, sitting or however you are. And particularly feel the density of the sensations like your buttocks and your legs pressing down into the seat, floor, cushion. And feel the way your arms are. And with the intention to let your arms really just be at rest. Your hands relaxed on your knees or in your lap or wherever. And sense a little into your facial muscles as well. Particularly the ways maybe in the jaw or around the eyes, we tend to hold subtle tensions. So just sort of entering into the body field, right? This field of sensory experience with a quality of settling and sensing. Settling and sensing. And I wonder, as I go on speaking, if you might keep sensing and settling, so that rather than just listening to the words and to the ideas that I'm putting forth, if you might actually sort of listen most essentially to your own experience. Listen to the felt sense of sitting here. Listen to the moments of restlessness, maybe, or impatience or boredom that arise. Right? Listen in such a way that, in a way, what's primary is what's going on in your own experience. And then what I'm saying, let that be secondary. Let that be secondary. It might be a funny thing for a speaker to say. But I remember once somebody sort of complaining to one of my teachers, saying, "I feel like you're not giving me your full attention." And my teacher said, "Of course not. I never give anybody my full attention." It's like, but that's what we tend to do in communication is like, we give our attention away as if it's happening out there, as if connection is over there in some way. We sort of leave ourselves to go to somebody else, or we leave ourselves to sort of go into the thing I'm looking at, or the thing I'm thinking about, or whatever it is. And so the art of a genuinely embodied practice is in some ways the art of staying home in ourselves. Like, was it Ajahn Mun, I think, famous old Thai teacher said. His main instruction was never let your mind leave your body. Never let your mind. That might seem like too much of a tall order. So if we were to modify it a little bit, we might say, okay, every time you notice that your mind has left your body, invite it back. If that was to become a predominant habit, right? A habit of recognizing, oh, there I go again, off into some or other abstraction, right? And then to generate the habit and the skill, right, of coming back in and down. Our habits tend to take us up and out. And just think for yourself, how do you walk down the street? How do you work? How do you talk with people? How do you move around your home? How do you go up and down stairs? How do you wash the dishes? Tends to be in what I'm calling, energetically up and out. We're looking for what's happening. We're looking to the world. We're looking to get ourselves reflected back to ourselves in some way from the world. And so, by contrast, what might it be like to move through those different moments and activities in that movement of in and down, in and down? And I find just that a really helpful instruction for people often, right? Feel that, and then in and down. There's a term in Pali, is the language the Buddha spoke, yoniso manasikara, and it's usually translated as embodied attention, right? Yoniso manasikara, but etymologically, yoni, you might be familiar with yoni from the yogic traditions as meaning vagina. But actually, it's in general, yoni is used for the sort of a little non-specifically for the whole female reproductive apparatus. But in this sense, actually, yoni, it seems, means womb. Womb. Yoni, so yoni, so means like from the womb. Manasikara, mind activity. Manasikara, so attention. So specifically, when the Buddha says yoniso manasikara, which has been translated usually as embodied attention, more accurate, right, would be womby attention. He's asking us to give womby attention. Right? He says most people's attention is ayoniso, is disembodied, right? Abstracted, gone. This is mindfulness and meditation and a real meeting with an exploration of experience, the nupassana, to tracking. So actually, if you want to track your experience, if you really want to understand from the inside, if you want to meet the whole universe and contemplate and respond skillfully to the universe as it arises here in this very body, then that's with womby attention. I find that very evocative for several reasons. One, because the womb is that kind of deepest place, in a human body. A womb is the source of life. We all grew in a womb. We come from the womb. Also because it's very clear in the intention that what I was talking about, in and down, right? To see if you can settle your attention down in that kind of lowest place in your belly, where you can feel the rhythm of breath moving, for example. That lowest place in your belly that acts as a kind of landing zone for relaxation. Like, oh. And it's interesting that most of the spiritual traditions have a specific name for that zone as an energy center, like hara in Japanese, or dantian in Chinese, or the kaf in the Sufi tradition in Arabic. So womb doesn't quite work, right? Because it sounds anatomical. And those of you who are male listening to this, like me, are thinking, oh, I don't have one of those, right? But it's interesting. If we look at the three primary energy centers, right? Head, heart, belly, we sort of associate, so the head center is kind of associated with clarity, wisdom, but it's also associated with a lot of thinking. Thoughts don't actually live in your head, right? If you open up a head, you don't find a lot of thoughts in there. You just find some gray, spongy stuff. But we have the sense of the way the head center is kind of feels like the center of operations for thought and for senses, partly because our senses are stuck on here, right? So eyes, nose, it's all happening here. And we have no difficulty in differentiating. There's a physical organ here, which we call brain. And then there's a kind of a center of experience here, which we tend to call mind, right? Mind doesn't actually live in your head. Mind has no location other than it's here. But, we can usefully speak about the experience and the head center in those two terms, brain and mind. Right? And then when it comes to the heart center, interestingly, again, we tend to use the same word. So instead of differentiating brain and mind, we use the same word, heart, but to refer to two very different things. We use the word heart for the organ, right? Like the brain, physical organ. We use the word heart for the physical organ, the blood pump. And then we also use the word heart to suggest the center of love and of emotional experience, right? So again, it's just like thoughts don't actually live in the head. Our emotional life doesn't live in here, but it makes sense. We say, oh, the heart feels like this. I feel in my heart. When we talk about love, we have a sense of love somehow being felt here or emanating from here. So, but when it comes to the belly center, most of us have only a sense of it as an organ, right? The stomach, for example. Food gets digested down there. So we've sort of got it for the head center, that there's a physical center, brain, and an energetic center of the conceptual or the cognitive life. We've got it in the heart center, that there's an organ there, but there's also the center of emotional life. But we don't seem to have got it for the belly center. We've got it, there's an organ there, right, our stomach. But because we're ayoniso, disembodied, most of us, we don't really relate to the belly center as being an energetic center, right? And if here is the center of cognitive life, and if here is the center of emotional life, what's the belly center the center of? It's a center of embodied life. It's a center of presence. Right? That's why the Buddha talks about womby attention, right? To wake up in the belly center. When you wake up the head center, the way we might describe that is in terms of clarity or brilliance or wisdom. And when we wake up in the heart center, we would describe that as love. Right? The waking up in the belly center, we could describe as presence. Right? The sense of here-ness or isness, right? Or the just like thisness. The sense of a kind of direct inhabiting of life, inhabiting of experience, a kind of knowing, not a conceptual knowing, an embodied knowing, a knowing that we're here in life. And the fruit of that, what that feels like, right? If wisdom feels like brilliance or clarity, and if love feels like Well, like love, warmth, openness. Right? What waking up here feels like is ease, relaxation. Right? And relaxation that's kind of beyond our usual imaginings, because our usual imaginings about relaxation tend to be unconscious ones, right? Sleep, a few beers, etc. So what we're pointing to by sensing into the belly center, arriving in the belly center, waking up in the belly center, we're sensing into a capacity, and actually an unimaginable capacity to know a quality of relaxation. It seems to me that, at least thus far in 30 years of practicing like this, relaxation is infinite. I can't find the end of relaxation. Right? So there's muscular relaxation, but then there's sort of energetic relaxation. There's the relaxation of our habit patterns, right? The subtle tensions and posturing that we hold, the ways we tend to kind of conceive of ourselves and configure ourselves and hold ourselves in certain ways. And then even when we relax muscularly, those tension patterns tend to show up. We start to feel, as we sense into experience, the tight spots or the hot spots, the pressure maybe in shoulders or head or various places. And that with actually a sort of continuous and steady practice, those start to open up, relax. And then we could also speak about what we could call maybe existential relaxation. Actually being able to relax the sense of self. A lot of times the spiritual traditions, make that very central. The way we get stuck on a sense of self, right? The way we identify with a limited or habitual or distorted sense of self. And then they focus on the ways that can be seen through, transcended, etc. But I like to speak about that process more as not one of transcending the self, or even worse, getting rid of the self, but one of actually relaxing the self, right? Another way we could talk about that is just not taking oneself so personally, not taking one's body and heart and mind and memories and experiences and wishes and intentions and preferences, right? Not holding them so tightly. That's what it's like, right? When you get into a mess with your experience or with somebody else, or the mess you get into is a mess of tension, right? Tension and drama, right? The drama is the way it plays out psychologically and emotionally. How could they do that to me? Why did they say that to me? If only I'd done that. It's not fair, whatever. Right? And then the tension is, the way that lives in us. Right? So you can work in meditation or in various ways of inquiring into experience. You can work with the tension or the drama, but it's much trickier to work with the drama, because drama tends to beget more drama, right? So if you try to just work very directly with the head center and or the heart center, in other words, right, with all the ideation about yourself and others and your experience, or with all the feelings about what's happening to you and with others, etc. It's easy to get just caught up in the vortex of all those thoughts and feelings about what's happening, right? All the ideas and impressions and interpretations of what's happening. So what if we come in and down? And instead of just buying into all the drama, we actually sense into the tensions. they may not immediately relax because they're so habitual. In fact, we may not immediately even recognize that they are tensions. What they usually feel like, the whole mass of tensions that play out habitually in us, we tend to experience them as me. That's just, that's how I experience myself. Right? But then as we attune, as we keep sensing and settling, we start to detect tension patterns that we didn't even know were there. It's like if somebody says to you, oh, hey, just relax. And you say, oh yeah, I'm relaxed. And then they might say, what about your shoulders? Oh yeah. When your attention goes somewhere, have you ever had that experience? You think you're relaxed and then you notice there's a whole part of you that was, your jaw or your shoulders that wasn't included. And you hadn't noticed. And then you do notice, oh my goodness, I was holding my shoulders up near my ears, which takes energy. It creates tension. And I didn't even know it. And as soon as the attention goes there, oh yeah, then you don't need to do something. It's just natural. And natural. And what are the fruits of that? It's like, that's a taste, actually, of liberation. It's relieving. It's relieving to relax tensions. And that's the most obvious thing to say, but that is like an encapsulation of a path of liberation, a path of deepening experience, a path of deepening understanding, a path of deepening in the process of actually living freely. Right? It's relieving to relax tensions. One way I try to give a sense of that, right, is by asking people to over-tense. So you might try that just for a moment now, right? Just tense your arms. We won't do it for too long. Tense your legs, tense your jaw, tense your face. Right? Feel the work it takes, but also feel how dense, how real you feel. The boundary between self and world seems very real. I'm a really dense, solid, real self. And now, just relax. Soften all of those muscular tensions and feel how the boundaries literally soften. And how, it's like the delineation between self and world softens. It's like it's what I usually call outer is more welcome. What I usually call inner extends more. And that's just a very gross outermost layer of relaxation. So we're invited to keep that, what I was calling coming in and down. And the ways we might do that in some formal meditation practices, right, are ways of attuning to habitual tensions, right, and then subtler and subtler tensions, and then tasting the relief as we put them down, put them down, put them down. And therefore, as we free up all the unconscious energy that's gone into maintaining those patterns. And that might sound good, maybe that sounds, maybe you can feel the relief of relaxing tensions. But actually, quite often at first, even though we might long for that kind of relaxation or relief, it's also kind of scary, disorientating even. Because much though we might find it uncomfortable to inhabit this sort of tense organism called me, right? We've sort of learned how to do me to a certain extent. If you really relax everything you take to be yourself, if you really relax the boundary between what I call me and what I call the world, what I call inner and what I call outer, well, actually you find you don't know who you are anymore. You find that what seemed previously so well defined, me, and what seemed clear, boundary between inner and outer, here and there, self and world, starts to soften and open. And here is suddenly, wow, a limitless domain. And that somehow that which I've kept telling myself is out there, the birds sing over there, the traffic passes over there, you're out there or over there. Suddenly that seems a little clumsy or reductive. And we start to sense actually the way in which we exist in a condition of extraordinary intimacy with everything. Where those birds singing and that traffic passing and those people, both the ones I love and care about and the ones I struggle with, they're not really out there. And it's also too much to say they're just in here, right? But maybe actually we start to taste the way everything we experience, most fundamentally, is neither out there nor in here. Everything we experience happens in this indescribable shared intimacy between experience and awareness. And what we call me and you, right, or me and my experience, actually is a kind of an extraordinary dance, an intimate dance, an inseparable dance between awareness and experience. An inseparable dance that forms the whole of reality. And where is that reality happening? Where is that reality being witnessed and known? Where is that reality most accessible? Right here. Right here. You couldn't be in a better spot for meeting everything than right here. So it's like, right here's the invitation to see where my attention goes up and out. To see how I can invite attention to settle, to soften, to land in a kind of womby presence. And in then tracking the playing out of habitual tensions and the capacity to recognize them, and then we start to see the beliefs or the compulsions that are driving them. We begin to dare to relax them. We begin to get familiar with this quality of sort of porousness or intimacy, genuine openness to whatever's happening. We start to discover that there's nothing actually I need defend here. Or promote or configure. That actually those tension patterns that arise, that have been arising for decades as a habitual response, a defensive response, a demanding response, they're fundamentally unnecessary. They've been necessary to the extent I've taken myself to be someone that needs promoting and defending and constructing over and over again. Right? But as I realize that that's neither completely true nor necessary, then we get the opportunity to become more and more familiar with a genuinely embodied presence, a genuinely undemanding, undefended, undistracted presence. That's the promise. That's the real possibility of a practice like this. the way we start to wake up to our usual movements of mind and the tension patterns of body that are configured, pretty much all of them, around those three areas. Demands, what I want; defenses, what I'm trying to get away from; and distractions, just the general spacing out. That seems like what we need to do to get through. I like distraction, and I get seduced by demands, and I need to be defensive. But when we're really tracking our experience, we find that all those things, they're just kind of exhausting. There's an endless amount to demand, right? There's endless reasons to find something to defend. Right? Multiple, infinite amounts of distractions. And that's how we wear ourselves out in the pursuit of demands, defenses, and distractions. And to start to really taste that, just feel that the work that goes into that is to also sense the invitation to relax. Relax your demands. I'm not saying you shouldn't demand anything, right? It's not to go from one fixed view or fixed orientation to another, but be curious. Be curious about how you configure around what I want. Be curious about how you defend against what I don't want. Stay tuned to what you're hoping for in all those distractions. And see if it might be worth just gently, again and again, coming in and down. Cultivating the art of settling, sensing, softening, and getting familiar with the openness and intimacy of really being here. So that a sense of a genuinely undemanding presence, undefended presence, undistracted presence might start to feel like home in a way that's more and more, effortless, natural, relaxed. So that we start to really taste the promise of all those traditions and teachings that we can benefit from. That promise that we can live frictionlessly, live freely, die freely. So it's in that spirit, it's with that wish that I offer these reflections today. Thank you for listening. More than that, I really appreciate whatever willingness is there to engage and explore your own body, mind, your own entanglements, and your own relaxation. So if these reflections are in the support of that for you, I'm very happy. And the book I have that came out in November, I think it was, or came out recently, it's called Awake Where You Are. And it's really a path through meditative practice and a whole sort of spiritual journey of inquiry and awakening with this deeply embodied thread running through it. All right. Thank you.